We're live.
We're live.
Today we talk about Law 15
Yep.
from the Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene and 15 of 18. So we're almost done with this
That's right.
amazing piece of work. Law 15 is make them want to follow you. This is the law of fickleness.
Yeah. I looked up fickleness just to, did you?
Yeah. Yeah. What'd you get for what does that mean?
Apparently, changing often one's mind or changing specialty when it comes to loyalty on people.
Yeah. Yeah. Something that lacks stability,
Correct.
given to erratic changeableness. So that's this is what this chapter is about, the law of fickleness, and it's talking to people's change in loyalty.
Yes.
That's what he's focused on.
Correct.
Have you encountered this? Have you encountered a situation in your life where maybe because you've been a leader, you've had employees, team members for many, many years, and have you ever come across that where you thought you had someone's loyalty in a partnership or part of your team, and it changed on you?
Yes. I think it happens to everybody. I don't think anybody is immune, especially if you get to a position where you're going to lead a group of people, even if it's a small group of people, you know? Absolutely. It happens to all of us.
Yeah.
You think you have your right hand person, and then all of a sudden, that person quivers a little bit, and you know, they go and work for the competitor. So it happens to all of us. And he's got a good point throughout the chapter. I don't remember exactly where exactly. He talks about not showing weakness as a leader. And I think that's very important. You always want to seem like you know what you're doing. Okay. And uh, as you continue on the path, whatever it may be, whether it's business or architecture or engineering or whatever, people that surround you will see if you're actually full of hot air. And that's also going to be a contributing factor. There's a lot of people that don't know how to keep quiet when they're not sure about what they're going to say. And then if they say something that's not exactly accurate, you know, because they're going off of memory or something, that's held against them for many, many months and maybe even years.
As the
So,
leader, you
yeah,
have to have
you
your
gotta
stuff
have
in
your,
order.
you gotta be, yeah, you gotta have your act together. You can't say, oh, I think it was this and that and whatever. A lot of people are gonna hold you true to your words. You said this. Oh, that was a mistake. And so, it can come back to bite you, especially if you're in a corporate setting where you have all these people climbing the corporate ladder, so to speak, right? They'll use it against you somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
So, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, loyalty, it's something we've talked a lot about in business with customers, like or other acquaintances in the business that are related to our business. And we've encountered situations where they didn't end up doing business with us, and we've mentioned that word loyalty. Oh, where's the loyalty kind of thing?
There is no loyalty.
There isn't, and that's I think what Robert Greene makes clear of this chapter is that it doesn't matter if you're royalty like Queen Elizabeth the First.
Yes, it was Queen Elizabeth the First.
It doesn't
Yes.
matter. He used her as an example. It doesn't matter if you're royalty. It doesn't matter if you're leading a team and you're a manager or a boss of a company. People, the moment they begin to build like a resentment towards you because you are in a leadership position, and if you're not careful, they'll try to take you out and
Hmm.
replace you.
Correct.
That's just what happens. It's human nature.
It's human nature. Yeah. He mentions that the king is if you can understand this, right? And we can. The king is loved and hated at the same time. And so the king needs to be very careful what moves he makes so that he remains in a position of power.
Yeah.
The minute he alludes to any sort of weakness, even even if the king doesn't feel that this particular action is a form of weakness, but is perceived as the people that follow him as weakness,
Yeah.
it will be probably the same effect, you know?
One of the things he brought up that I thought was interesting, it makes sense. With Queen Elizabeth, prior to her, her father, Henry VIII, and other royalty had this entitled mentality. They're royalty, they're better than the people.
Entitlement.
Entitlement, yeah. I thought that was really cool because what he brought up was that Queen Elizabeth was not that way.
No.
She could associate with the people. She would hang out and talk with the people, the lay people, right?
Yes.
They not just the royalty and the courts, and people felt that they could relate to her because of that, and she was
Correct.
almost like one of us. And I thought that was really interesting because it's very easy to, when you're in that situation, I think, have an entitled mentality, but she didn't. And he was attributing that being a huge part of her success.
She had a rough beginning. And so that's probably something that formed her
It's a
and
good point.
created that character.
Yeah.
So that, yeah, but all the royalty before her, they have this um mentality, like you said, of entitlement. You know, it happens to a lot of leaders. It happens to people that, you know, they make a decision and they're successful. They make another one and they're successful. And, you know, you make decisions down your up and down your career that are successful and you create a track record,
Uh-huh.
right? And so they feel that they can do no wrong,
Yeah.
okay? And you know, the minute that you feel that way, you're lost. You're done.
It's the beginning of the end.
It's the beginning of the end. And you see it today also, Mike, in politics. Some of these politicians are really disconnected.
Yeah.
They have no idea what reality is for the average human being. You know, they're out there.
It's a different world
It's
that
a
they live
different
in. It's a
world that,
bubble, maybe.
yeah, I would say,
Yeah.
yeah,
You know, you brought up that the king is loved and hated.
at the
In
same time.
We've talked about chimp empire and the alpha male chimp. He has to earn that position by fighting and challenging the current alpha male, the one that was previous to him. And sometimes the one that challenges doesn't win, right? And sometimes they do knock the guy out. And that's an interesting position or mentality to have, is that when you're in a leadership position, somebody's gunning for your spot always. They're looking for your weaknesses, signs that you can't make a decision, maybe signs that you can't make a decision quickly. One thing that Robert Greene brought up was that one of the negative things that Queen Elizabeth I had is that she wasn't putting her sister to death. She was taking too long to do that, and her sister was Mary, Queen of Scots,
Correct.
and her sister was trying to overthrow even Queen Elizabeth I, and she was holding off to give her the punishment of death until finally orchestrated some sort of attempt to the sister Mary orchestrated an attempt to coup
Mm-hmm.
to take out Queen Elizabeth I, and that's when finally she signed the death warrant.
Correct.
Um, However, from the public's eye, she was protecting her sister because she was royalty, and that's
Right.
one thing that Robert Greene brought up.
And the perceived vision was that she was protecting her sister against the the betterment of the people. So
At the cost of the
at the
people.
cost of the people. And so they were holding that against her.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
But she corrected herself.
She did. She did. And history has treated her well. As a matter of fact, Queen Elizabeth I, literally, you can give her credit for knocking out Spain as a colonial power because she strategically waited for the right moment in order to um, defend the country. And she was completely, she let the people, the war uh, conciliaries handle the war. But there was one thing that she said she would not allow anybody to change. And that was that she wanted the fight or the war to be done in near English waters. And the reason that she wanted that is because the Spanish Armada, there were huge galleons, okay, that could not maneuver all that well in the rough English waters. And so she fought near her country with lighter boats, faster boats, and also one psychological edge was that the English were fighting near their country and they were going to fight harder than ever because they were just next door. If that was the last, defense. And so psychologically, that army was going to fight far harder than ever. And, she took down the Armada, man.
Wow.
And she bankrupted Spain, okay? And Philip II, okay, was never the same again, and neither was Spain. Spain was never, ever, ever able to regain the colonial control and superpower that it was prior to this. So, I mean, a woman took him down. A woman took that.
Wow.
It's amazing. And
Yeah.
Robert Greene is great uh, in the historical research and how he nails it down. And he's tedious. I
Yeah.
mean, I gotta tell you, it's tough to stay on board with him because he's so detailed, right?
Yeah.
Um, but man, once you get through that, you can see the fall so easily.
Yeah. He brought up a few points that reminded me of the 48 Laws of Power.
Oh yeah.
And one of them was, and one of the laws is to enter action with boldness. And he went into that in this law 15. He was saying, look, take time to make your decision, but once it's okay to take time to make a decision, but once you make your decision, you enter action with boldness. You boldly execute that the moves you need to make. And I guess she was like that because once she did make a decision, it was all full-fledged.
And remember, she didn't have the benefit of having the book, The 48 Laws of Power.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I remember one time several years back when I wanted to buy an agency. And usually when I did that, I would draw a list of pros and cons, right? And in this particular case, it was very difficult. And I had already bought two or three. Um, but in this particular one, it was very, very difficult to make the decision. The pros and the cons were almost even. It was very, very difficult. Um, there were a few things that I knew were going to go wrong. Okay. And I wasn't sure that I wanted to go through that. And anyway, long story short, um, I had read the 48 Laws of Power. And it was like what do you call it? A coin toss. But once I made my decision, which was to buy that agency, I remember that I couldn't go back and show any kind of weakness and go gun ho on it because I had a group of agents that were going to help me, in the acquisition and with all the folks that we were
The
the
servicing,
servicing and everything.
they needed to know you were on board 100%.
100%.
Yeah.
And so, believe me when I'm telling you that there were many times when I wasn't sure of the path to take. And somehow, when you're in the battle, when you're in the battle fighting and on the ground, right? Sometimes there may be an area or a door that opens up and you go through it,
Hmm.
okay? Where you didn't see that before when you got started. And some people would argue that potentially that door was not there when you got started.
Right.
That door became an opportunity as you move your troops forward. And I remember with that agency, it was one thing after another. My God, it was just, but, you know,
You proceeded.
we proceeded forward and we did all right at the end of the day. We did very well with it, but it was yeah. So you can't have that weakness because I think it also will
Second
affect.
guessing.
Yeah, you second guess yourself, it will affect you. You you know
Yeah.
the it will affect you and the other person can take you out.
Yeah. Um, One thing that, talking about the fickleness, you know, in business, we understand, but sometimes we're still caught off guard that there is no loyalty, right?
Correct.
So, well, Queen Elizabeth the First was really good at playing the game of potentially marrying this person and forming alliances, but breaking away right before things got sealed, right? So she manipulated people like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, in business, I've had instances, but one in particular where there was somebody that an acquaintance that I worked with, and they went behind my back and tried taking business from me, right? From one of the sources and so that I would that was sending me business. And so from that moment I realized, and I already kind of had learned because you had shared some stories with me that people had burned you in the past.
Hmm.
But it isn't really until maybe you experience it yourself in combination with, let's say, doing the studies that we're doing in the laws, is understanding, like, from the get-go, this person at any point in time can turn and try to take business from me. There's no loyalty. Anything I share here with this person can one day be used somehow against me. And it sounds kind of ugly because you would hope that that weren't the case. Maybe in a friendship it's not, it's different, but in a business setting, the moment that somebody can, they'll take your spot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. If you Dana White talks a lot about it because
Yeah.
he says he talks to a lot of young people that say, "Hey, I want to be an entrepreneur. I don't want to have a job, from 8 to 5, 9 to 5, whatever, and I want to work for myself and create my own hours." And he says, "Hey, there is no create your own hours, especially in the beginning. Every day and night seems like they're latched on together, and there is no Thanksgiving or Christmas usually in the beginning. You have to work yourself through." And he says, the most dangerous portion of all this is that there's always somebody out there trying to knock you off and take away whatever you have created.
Yeah.
And that's your competitor. It's your competition. I don't care if you're selling beef or you're selling batteries or you're manufacturing batteries or whatever. Your competitor is always trying to get a bigger percentage of the pie,
Yeah.
whether it is through service, marketing, whatever it is, you know? And, I've had a couple of people that I considered friends approach some of my employees to offer them a job. Okay. This hasn't happened in a while, but it did happen when I was younger. And I consider that a backstab, you
Yeah.
know, because I wouldn't do that to them. So, I'm still standing today. I still own my businesses. Okay. But we got hit a lot. And maybe if you maintain a high level of standard, okay, your employees will see
Yeah.
you know? And if you can share the vision and share the wealth, okay, um, then you will have a group that's congruent, tight, and even then, even then, something could happen, okay? Because ultimately, if anything goes wrong, it's like you say all the time, go back to the source. Who's the source? You are. I am. What did I do wrong, right? Uh, that this happened, okay? And it's really interesting
Yeah. I think that's the best way
dynamics,
to improve things, take responsibility of the situation.
for sure.
Because like for example, I've seen some business owners that are very involved in their business, extremely involved, and they know every single aspect going on. And and then I've seen some other business owners that are able to run it at a distance because they have good people in place and whatnot. But at the end of the day, if something goes wrong in either situation, the leader is responsible,
Absolutely.
no matter how involved you are or not.
Correct.
And so, you have to have good people. And
Absolutely.
I think the more detached you are, the better the people that you have to have, and the higher the chances that something could go wrong potentially because you're further detached. So it's a risk, but doesn't mean it's not possible, right?
No, I mean, Mark Cuban does it. He owns, I don't know how many companies, 100 companies or something. And what he does is in the beginning, he tries to verify things and follow numbers very closely and pick key people,
Yeah,
okay?
really
Key
important
people
people.
into uh, important positions,
Yeah.
okay? Look, one of the hardest things that I ever had to do was delegate. But you just said something that's extremely important. And what you just said is you can't do it alone. You
No.
alluded to that. If you want to create something big in life, there's just no way you're going to be able to do it alone. You're going to need the help of some people. I mean, if you talk about some eccentric folks out there like Leonardo da Vinci, he didn't need any help in the portraits that he put together. So, that's genius at work. But for the most part, if you're going to do something, you're going to need a group of people, a group of allies, an inner circle, right? That you treat well and they treat you well, and you've handpicked them over the years to to carry your vision forward. Okay, and that's it.
Yeah.
If you can't do it alone, and delegating is a very difficult thing to do. That's why you say you've seen some people that are extremely involved in their businesses. I'm not so sure that's all that good, because how do you grow? How do you scale it? If you're
It might not
watching
be.
every little
It
thing,
may not be scalable.
it may not be scalable because of the way you're running your business.
I've also seen the ones who run businesses and are detached, and I've been on the inside. The talk about that owner is they lose a little respect for them sometimes because they're not here. They're always traveling on vacation. They come in to read a couple spreadsheets and try to talk to the team or whatever, and then they're gone.
Right. So
You lose
you lose respect.
respect.
And look, that's something that I'm very concerned for.
Yeah.
Because, as you know, I own a couple businesses and you can't be there at all times,
Yeah.
but um, you do lose respect
Yeah.
because you're no longer in the trenches with them.
You're not
You're no,
fighting
you're not fighting together.
on
You're
the
not
front line.
like Napoleon,
Yeah. Lead from
Napoleon
the front.
Bonaparte.
Lead from the front. That was one thing that was very interesting in this chapter.
Exactly.
But like you said, in business, if you want to scale something, you have to maybe pick the person to help you lead from the front,
Right.
right? But are you going to do that always? Eventually you retire as a general, as the one leading from the front, and you're overseeing the bigger picture. I don't think
Yeah.
that's a bad thing.
I was having a conversation with someone the other day, it was in relation to business, and they were talking about that they're writing every policy or a lot of policies.
Yeah.
And I said, that's something that unfortunately I don't do anymore. I don't have the day-to-day contact with the client anymore, and I haven't for many, many years. And I missed it, because I could know about the kids and the grandkids and so forth and so on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but this gentleman said, "Well, but how long have you been doing this?" And I said, "Well, I've been doing this for about 40 years." And his reply was, "Well, you then deserve to be able to run it from afar if you made it that many number of years." But there's no guarantee.
No.
You could be 40 years doing something and still be in the trenches. And
Right.
and so, you know what? You it's what I say all the time. You just need to play the hand that is dealt the best you can. The best you can. Try to be as fair as you possibly can with your team.
And be genuine. I really like that Robert Greene went
Right.
into that. He said, figure out what your real calling is, what that voice, that's something that you really, really like, right?
Yes.
And a lot of this book is talking about that calling, or the right, your calling. I forgot what he names it, but basically your purpose,
Yeah.
finding your purpose.
Yeah, he says the authenticity of your authority will reveal your style. And then
Yeah.
he goes into, are you a deliverer? Are you a founder? Are you a teacher?
What
Because
kind of leader are you?
what kind of leader are you?
But be genuine in whichever one of those you are.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And then the people will see that at least they have a genuine person that they can, to a certain extent, trust. Because, yeah, I think trust, with all the things that have happened with corporations, um, all these layoffs and so forth, people are, hurt, right? And
Yeah.
so they don't know what to believe anymore, and there's no trust.
Yeah.
Okay?
There is no trust.
No.
And there's growing resentment.
Yes.
Because if you're the leader and you're making a ton of money, and the people that you're leading are making very, very little in
Mm-hmm.
comparison to you, you're showing up in fancy cars, you're showing up, you're living a different lifestyle, they may, they will grow resentful.
Absolutely. And you need to be cognizant of that
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
You have to, because um, it's not about hurting people's feelings, but you have to be in tune with what they can potentially, because then you potentially create envy within the group.
Sure.
And that will be something that could take your company down very quickly. Robert Greene has said many times that he is now a consultant to Fortune 500 companies.
Hmm.
And the owner of one particular company may be the best resource for that company. He brought it up from zero to nothing, but he ends up making a mistake hiring a person or picking a partner. Okay? Because he didn't know about some things relatable to human nature
Yeah.
that you could potentially pick out if you're a little bit more savvy in that arena. So, you just have to be careful, tread carefully, and move forward as best you possibly can.
Yeah. One of the quotes that Green said was, train yourself to read between the lines
There you
of
go.
what they're actually saying. Dedicate yourself to earning their respect. So, like you're saying, that CEO maybe is not noticing these subtle cues. And I think that that's one of the things that's been helpful in this with these studies that we're doing, is that it's making us put focus on my day-to-day interactions with people and negotiations and business. What are they actually telling me? And try to also, like the game of chess, predict the moves that the other person's going to make. I thought it was interesting he even went into parents as an authority, is how it used to be, versus wanting to be a older friend, quote
Mm-hmm.
unquote, trying, wanting to be on the same. like they're the same playing field, they have a little bit more experience, they're equals, versus parents being an authority. And I guess Greene is getting into a little bit that society, we have a problem with authorities or being an authority or a leader. So we're trying to come across as like, no, we're equals. And he says that leads to a lot of problems. It's like too many chefs in the kitchen. Um, what do you think about that in terms of a parent that wants to be a friend versus the authority?
Yeah, well, um, so you're asking for my opinion, and here's my opinion. Um, I don't think that I don't think that you can be a friend to your son or your daughter. I think that you need to be a father. That entails a lot of things. You don't necessarily have to be taking out the friendship part of it out of that, right? But you need to be authoritative in certain issues because, um, they you need to guide a son or you need to guide a daughter to your best way of raising them, right? Because
Yeah.
we have talked in the past that there's no operating manual that comes with a child, right?
Yeah.
This is a girl, so there's an operating manual for a girl. This is a boy, there's just isn't. So you have to do the best you can. But I think that if you're trying to be an equal and be their friend, it can lead to a lot of issues when you have to exert a certain degree of respect or power over them because you're the father or the mother and you have to steer them away from what you believe is wrong. Okay, you can't be an equal and say, well, we're 50-50 on this because you say yes and I said no, but you're going to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So there's got to be that, yeah, that
Authority.
authoritative.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Authority.
got to be. I believe that,
Hmm.
you know? And that's the way it was with my parents. I mean, I wanted to do something totally different than what I studied. Okay. I wanted to do something else in the beginning.
Hmm.
And they said, no, you're going to forget about that and you're going to do this. And when I started doing what they said, you know, I liked it. Okay. But it wasn't my first choice, right? But you did what your parents told you to do in the old days. Otherwise, you got yourself in big trouble. So, and then you don't want to be a
Totalitarian.
totalitarian either. But this thing about being equal and yeah, I'm your friend, let's talk it out, whatever. I don't think it jives, especially today. Needs kids need direction.
People need direction.
People need direction.
Uh, Greene talks about, and I agree, by the way, on that. Greene talks about people want a leader that is open. They want a leader. So if you don't step up and lead, whether it's in the household or in your business, somebody else will, or there's going to be chaos. Um, a leader needs to cultivate the third eye, uh, Robert Greene says, and that entails having a vision of the future and helping your followers, the people that are trusting in you to lead them, get to that destination. And so you have to cast a vision and you have to find a way to get there. I find it interesting. It's like some people have that, we've been to in different projects on the real estate front, properties that are really, really ugly or falling apart. But somebody can come in and look at that property and say, we're gonna take that wall down, we're gonna make this a second floor, they have that vision, and that's a leader. And they have the creativity, and then they lay it out and then it gets done. And so we need to have the third eye. And I thought that was interesting. He's talking about cultivating it. How do you cultivate that? Um, One of the things is to quote from the book, entertain the perspective of the enemy. So, like chess, you have to try to predict the other person's moves. You have to try to see what are the potential outcomes here. And that's I guess that's integrate it in part of your vision. If I'm leading the team to do this, what are the potential situations that can happen? I really like that.
Yeah, I so do I, actually. I really connected with this law, I have to tell you.
What's what hit you the most about this law
Well,
that you
there was a quote that he mentioned that he says, "Look, the excellent man makes tremendous demands on himself. That's what brings about the excellence in him." And so
can you say it again?
the excellent man makes tremendous demands upon himself. You don't become excellent by doing mediocre work. And in order to nowadays stand above the ground, above many, you know, you need to make great demands upon yourself. And by making these demands upon yourself and trying to achieve them, okay? Because you have to take action. There's action. This is just not just words. You become a better person, a better husband, therefore maybe a better relationship. You become a better leader,
Yeah.
so maybe you lead better in
Better
business,
boss. Yeah. Better
a better
partner.
boss.
Sure.
Um, Listen, I'm here to tell you that I was a terrible boss. Okay,
Really?
I think I'm a little better now, but yeah, I was
What what made you terrible?
because I was so laser focused in my goals that I was not able to listen to ideas coming from the employees. It was just my way or the highway initially
Mm.
to obtain these goals. And the goals were being obtained, okay? But I think we could have gotten there in through a different route, you
Instead
know?
of brute force.
Well, I was very militant, like if I got had gone to the army and come back with a military,
But
uh, uh,
you're not like that now.
no,
So you've changed.
a lot. In some areas, I have forced myself to change, because I saw my weaknesses, and in other areas by getting older and learning more. Okay, you change. Okay, um, there's there's a lot to be said about listening to the people that are in your inner circle. Okay, they may come up with some ideas that are better than yours. Give credit to the person that brings it up. Make sure that you give credit to the right person, not to a person that tries to take an idea from somebody else. That can create a lot of issues.
Yeah.
Okay? And if you're not careful, that'll get you into a lot of trouble. And inadvertently, I've been there in that situation too.
Yeah.
You can so you just need to do the best that you can. A good idea is to continue to be a student of life forever, and read books on business, read books on whatever it is that you're dealing with. If you need to improve your relationship with your wife or your son or your daughter. Like the other day, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he says, that's great. You have a podcast with your son. I haven't talked to my son in about 2 years. And I don't know what came over me, but my initially, I told him immediately, well, why don't you pick up the phone and call him? Oh, well, it's not that easy. But why isn't it easy? Why? Well, because your ego is in the way, because you've been hurt. And, you know, so, a lot of it has to do, Mike, without getting too much into rhetoric and talking too much. It has to be with the philosophy of life that you decide to choose and lead. Today, I value the moment, tremendously. In the past, I was always thinking of future goals and short and long-term goals and obtaining them and so forth. And business was business, family was family, this was this. Very structured and delineated, no overlaps. So it was an interesting thing.
Hmm.
Um,
You were
and
a little more rigid.
yeah, oh, for sure.
Yeah.
for sure. And I don't think being rigid is all that good. There's that old saying that, you know, palm trees are in hurricane areas for a reason. Why? Because, oh, bamboo trees. Because the bamboo tree can bend. And if you see a bamboo tree in a wind, it'll bend, 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 but it won't snap. Okay? It'll go right back up. Whereas palm trees, they will bend and they will snap
Mm,
in high winds. But the bamboo tree is not. So be like a bamboo tree,
that's a great analogy.
not a palm tree. And I think I was more a palm tree when I got started. I read some
Certain,
book.
maybe certain instances call for more flexibility,
I
and
think so.
knowing when that is an instance that calls for rigidity or flexibility. Knowing when, because maybe some instances that was the best way to go, to be a little bit more structured and rigid, but not in every instance.
No,
It's maybe a case by case.
I would think so. So
But
that's why I liked it. It says the excellent man makes great demands on himself.
yeah, I thought that was a really, really cool quote also. Um, the continuation of that quote is that the excellent man is urged by interior necessity to appeal from himself to some standard beyond himself, superior to himself, whose service he freely accepts. We distinguish the excellent man from the common man by saying it's the man who makes great demands on himself. It's the man of excellence who lives in eternal servitude. The man of excellence is constantly in servitude, contrary to what people think. They think that the man of excellence is being constantly served. But no, it's the other way around. This is according to Jose Ortega y Gasset. He was a Spanish um,
That is excellent.
gentleman. Now, yeah, that was soup. I mean, I even went, I want to look into this. I had never heard of this man, and um, I want to learn more about.
Oh
He
yeah,
was a
that's
Spanish philosopher and essayist, Jose Ortega y Gasset.
yeah.
Now,
There's also one last thing, if I may. It
sure.
went with that. I believe it went with that quote a little further up. He was talking about you become in line and you become an eternal servitude,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
So you're serving the public.
Yes.
He said, a lot of people are looking for attention. So they do this, they do donations, they give to the poor, whatever, but they want their names plastered all over the place, right? But if you are an excellent man that makes great demands on themselves and become in line to have this eternal servitude, you are going to shine no matter what. Okay?
Yeah.
So, it's really uh,
In
deep.
your actions,
Yeah,
in your serving to people.
yeah.
Yeah, you
And you're
have
going
to
to get
give
the
first.
attention.
You have to.
You're going to get the
You're gonna
attention,
get,
but it's
yeah,
going to be more genuine,
merited.
merited, as opposed to just doing things just for the attention. You know?
It it's a cool, very cool
It's a
way of
very
looking
cool
at it.
thought because being in eternal servitude, what comes to mind is helping your other fellow human being,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Providing value to the people around you. Um, I thought it was a cool concept that you're benefiting from the sacrifices of those who came before you. So
Absolutely.
it makes you, it's a change on this entitlement mentality. You shouldn't feel entitled. You're reaping the benefits of everybody who worked really, really hard, your ancestors. I think about it quite often. I was given the gift of being born in this country, the United States,
Hmm.
with a social security and a citizen, yet not too far removed. You weren't born here. My grandma was not from here, my grandparents.
Right.
And then on the other side also. And so because of their sacrifice and leaving their country and everything that entailed, I reap the benefits of it. So I have to do something big with that. I can't just throw that away because of the sacrifice that was made to for me to have these gifts.
Well, I'm glad you feel that way. You know,
I have to do something big with my life. That's how I think of it.
then do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Why not?
Don't just talk, do it.
No, just get it done.
Embrace what makes you different. I thought this was interesting. He says that the moments of depression are a call to, I guess, reassess where we're at. Like, the depression is there for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
to take you back into a state of maybe like reassessing what your vision is or your goals or anything. Thought that was a interesting concept. Um, anything else? One thing about over promising. I really liked how I agree with that 100%. Don't over promise. Don't over apologize. Be unpredictable. These are things that I live by, because you look weak if you're constantly apologizing. I even remember one time in business, I was at some sort of seminar, and the guy was saying, "Don't put thank you at the reply of every single email, because people have it on their automatic default reply. Thank you, Mike. Oh, can you send me this tomorrow at this time? Thank you." Don't be constantly thanking everybody. They're doing their job. Yeah, you want to say thank you, but it was like a change, that say thank you, but when it's
Merit.
merited. And if you're constantly saying it, it's not going to have much value to the person that you're saying it to.
Yeah. Well, there it's just like if when somebody needs you, there's two aspects to it. Okay. 50 Cent says that if you call this lady and she answers, if you text her and she texts her back, if you need her and she's there, okay, don't belittle her just because she's paying all her attention to you. Admire that and value it. Value her. She's there. She's
There for you.
there for you. Okay? There's another school of thought that says, every time you need help, you come to me, or, if I'm there every time that every little thing happens, then you start taking me for granted.
Mm-hmm.
So, those are the two, I guess, extremes, right? We should be able to figure out, I would imagine, something in the middle, because it is true. It is very true. If somebody, every time they need you, they call you and you're there, I do feel that you start losing a little bit of value in that person's eye. They're gonna realize, hey, he's always there for me, or she's always there for me. Um, all I have to do is make a call, and I have him at my beck and call.
There's something to that. I think that, don't over exercise that ability to call on that person. Don't overdo it. Do it when it's actually needed. Because if you overdo it, that's not good either. You're taking advantage of the person at that point. If you really, really need something and you call on somebody and they come through every time, that's somebody you can count on. But why are you constantly calling on that person? Something's off there.
Okay, well, that would be someone that would make that self-restraint. I don't
Right.
know a lot of people that would do it. I'm
I
sure there are, but every time it's easy. And if you fall into that cycle, you get used to it. Oh, let me call him up because of this and that or whatever.
I agree.
Yeah. For example, let me give you a quick example. I had a dear friend. He became a dear friend. He was my handyman. And every time something went wrong, I would call him.
Yeah.
And I knew that he was always there for me. Um, there were a couple times when I realized I just called him too much. Okay. But I still called him because I wanted him to help me, right? But there were a couple times when he came over and I could see that I could do that job myself
Mm.
easily, but I didn't even take the time to analyze it or look. And so,
Did it make you change
yes,
for
it
the
did
next
make me.
time?
Yes, it did.
Okay, so you did. have that self restraint.
Well, yes and no, because the moment it became a little difficult, I call him because it was so easy to call him, and he would always come by, and we became friends. And he was getting paid for his services. Okay, so maybe there was a little difference there. Okay, because I was paying every time I called him, I paid him. But he became a friend in the whole process because many years went by. He's no longer with us at this point, unfortunately.
Yeah.
He passed. Um, but
Good
I
man.
think we're all humans. So I think one of the things that we can definitely be sure of is that we're going to be guilty of any one of those laws in the negative aspect
Yeah.
as any one of those laws in the positive aspect.
Yeah.
And we need to catch ourselves to, at the moment, try to see if we can do the proper thing. Yeah, we're not beyond making a mistake, and we're not beyond doing something negative with one of those laws.
We have to look at ourselves,
Yeah,
introspect,
yeah,
try to improve, and
absolutely.
understand these are laws at play, and
Human nature, we're
it's
humans, we're
it's
part of it, we're making the same mistakes.
yeah, it's our wiring.
Yeah,
Um, anything else you want to throw in?
no,
So we have two more laws,
that's correct. Amazing.
right? Two
Yeah,
more. This was 15.
this is 15, there's
Three
three
more.
more
Three
laws.
more laws.
Yeah.
16, 17. And then we're gonna pick a new series. So that's exciting. If anyone has any suggestions,
Yes, please.
maybe a book that's covers some of these topics that we really enjoy talking about. And thank you everyone for listening.
Yeah,
We'll wrap
thank
it
you.
up.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.